Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a begrudging episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
So, people who are probably watching since the start of the countdown timer are like, well, it counted down from 3 and then that was it. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Gold Standard. As you can see, things are going really well. So we oftentimes use Skype to talk to our guests because it's just convenient, but Skype sucks. It really does. And so our guest, you can't hear him, but he's actually here right now. We're going to try.
You can't hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Now we can't hear.
Now we can hear.
Thanks for.
This is like live radio.
Yeah, thanks for ruining the surprise, Michael. What's your?
What's your what?
We're gonna do Google Hangouts instead.
We're gonna do Google Hangouts. Did you just lose him?
No, he's right here.
Oh, he's right there.
Hey, what's your?
I just messaged you.
Oh, you messaged me?
Yeah.
I don't pay any attention to what you're doing. Did you message me on Messenger?
Not on Skype because Skype doesn't work.
Not on Skype because Skype doesn't work. So let me pull out my phone.
Right,
yeah, no, this is all live.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Well, see, so here's the thing for people
that...
that...
go to thegoldstandardpodcast.com/Skype for your 20% discount on a product that never works consistently.
Never works consistently. It sounds like libertarianism to me.
Move to Somalia.
Oh man! Hopefully,
did. We're that's why the stream sucks. It's because we're streaming from Somalia and we don't have good internet.
I mean, you could just put up a picture and just say, "This is the dude that we're talking to," and then people who are like paying attention to this obvious idiocy can be like, "Okay, you guys are actually having a conversation about something."
You can't even see him yet.
No, we haven't got there yet.
Good, guys, this is a train wreck. Welcome.
All right, I'm closing Skype. Michael, go away.
No.
So what, are we going to Google Hangouts now?
Yeah, we're going to do Google Hangouts now and see if that works.
There needs to be a third, fourth, fifth, sixth option, really. I mean, there's only 2 options there are. It's kind of like Facebook.
You know how the thing is, though, is I'll probably have to restart it anyway. Because you know how it does that if you have Skype running, it controls your camera settings. So you have to close it and then open up your other stuff.
Well, that's how it works.
Yeah, we're going to do it again. Here we go. So, video call.
People
who are watching this right now are like, Jesus Christ.
You guys are a
this is literally the first time they've ever done this before.
See, it was all great. See, we used to just shoot the shows, edit them, and they were perfect when they played. When you go live, this is the kind of madness that happens to you. That's just it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So you're typing away. There you go. Look at that. Any luck?
We'll see.
We'll see. Do you want to cut to a commercial while you're doing this? Because we have the power.
Do we want to cut to a commercial while we're doing this?
We're going to cut to a commercial.
No, hold on. Let's do the websites and stuff so I don't have to do that again later.
Okay, let's try them.
All right,
Hopefully the audio settings are right.
If you want to be catching this amazing stream as it's happening in real time, you go to our Facebook, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is @Alan M. Mosley. But you don't have to, you shouldn't do any of that, quite frankly, because you could just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com, and we will be right back after this break. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread in circuses.
Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com.
All right, we're back.
We're back already?
Yeah, that's how fast
those commercials are too short then. We need more people to give us money so we have more commercials to play. Because that's what people tune in for is commercials.
Right. Yeah, that's true. If we had more people to give us more commercials, then we could play more commercials and that'd be fun. Then maybe, just like you said, your ad could be playing right now, but it's not because you're not giving us commercials. How you doing over there?
Dude, this is This is why I shouldn't be anything. This is. I'm not a real libertarian today, folks.
you are.
I'm sorry. No, when
What
things.
you are is confused by tech. That's what's going on.
I'm definitely confused. That's for sure.
Right now, someone watching this is thinking, I know how to fix all their problems, but that person is not here.
No, they don't even know where we started with our problems today. That's the thing. Oh!
What's happening?
We might have a guest now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, hold on a second. Say something, Michael.
Something, Michael.
Okay, I just wanted to make
There
sure I
you
could
go.
hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, we got him.
I don't know why you can't see me, and that's a shame because I'm pretty handsome. But
Can you see him? Because that's all that matters.
I'm watching the live stream on Mike Mahari's watch party on Facebook
yeah,
and hearing all, the something, Michael. See?
There you go. We see him good.
So-
I'm getting all the delay, and I'm going to respond to questions twice.
well, that's good because so for Mike and Suzanne and Clay Davis, who are the only people actually watching right now, they're going to get both sets of answers. This is good. This is really going well. I'm pretty happy. So, guys, welcome back to the show. Our guest today is the founder and president of the 10th Amendment Center, as well as the host of Good Morning Liberty, which you can find on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it comes on at 11:30 our time. I think it's 9:30 out there in California. Is that right? It's 9:30?
From what
I'm
I
not
understand.
familiar with time zones out of LA.
Okay. So it's earlier than our time out at his. I think it's 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, and 12:30, depending on what area of the country you're in. Michael
You just
Boldin.
go to thegoldstandardpodcast.com/Good Morning Liberty.
That's right.
There we go.
I'm going to do that now just because you said that.
We're doing everything Wood-style redirect on every link possible.
Well, mine is TGS Alan Mosley. Facebook is TGS Alan Mosley. Patreon is TGS Alan Mosley. So I want to eventually get to the point where you can just go on Google, type in TGS Alan Mosley, and get several different hits to peruse.
What were those letters?
TGS Alan Mosley. You know the gold standard?
No one remembers this. Okay, so what are we talking about?
All right, Bolton, let me read something for you. I just want to get your initial impression, okay? I'm going to read something for you. John Bolton, who has never shown even a shred of respect for or fidelity to the Constitution for the United States, demands that another country follow theirs. Seriously. From a tweet today, quote, "Your time is up. This is your last chance. Accept interim President Guaido's amnesty, protect the Constitution, and remove Maduro, and we will take you off our sanctions list. Stay with Maduro and go down with the ship." Let me just ask you really quick before we get into that. Who was he talking to when he said that?
Everybody.
Just whoever was listening?
Well, no, that was a tweet from John Bolton yesterday during this coup or uprising in Venezuela, demanding that the people, or encouraging people to overthrow that government. I mean, that's a good encouragement because it's a horrible piece of shit government that does all kinds of nasty things.
Sure.
And if the U.S. national or central government wasn't doing a lot of the same things, then I actually would make the case that even though Venezuela is a great example of how close to a pure socialist model will come to a collapse very quickly and even faster when you have a massive military empire doing some level of intervention. The U.S. government probably spends more on socialist programs than Venezuela does. So it's absurd that this guy, Bolton, is telling them to follow the Constitution when this guy and his team in Washington, D.C. probably have no interest in following theirs.
Well, there was actually, he had a tweet from a little bit earlier this morning that I wanted to
Are we following John Bolton?
No, I actually had to type in search on my phone because no, I don't
Next time
follow
you're gonna be
John Bolton. Thank you very
Next time you're
much.
gonna be quoting me Chuck Schumer or Kamala all day.
Okay, listen to this. Just because I know you really appreciate his ideological consistency. This was from 6 Out.
Jeff Sessions, Rick Santorum, Dick Cheney, John McCain. These are the epitome of what's problematic. That's an understatement about the so-called conservative or Republican ideology.
This is what he said this morning. The majority of Venezuelans and the leading democracies in the region have called for the exit of foreign security and intelligence forces from Venezuela and reiterated the rejection of Maduro's usurpation of power. Now, when John Bolton says that foreign security and intelligence forces should leave the area, I bet he's saying everyone other than the United States.
Well, the U.S. doesn't involve themselves in anyone's internal affairs.
You know, I saw, I don't know if you follow Tom Mullen. I like Tom. And
Tom Mullen's awesome.
Yeah, Tom had tweeted out, I think, this morning. He said, so what do you think Venezuela should do about the United States being involved in their elections?
Yeah, of course, a lot of the lefties that are supposedly kind of anti-Trump, you know, they're talking about no involvement in, you know, the whole Russiagate thing, the Mueller report. You know, we don't see them railing on this about U.S. involvement. There's always hypocrisy from all these people. And it really is just, the end result is that both sides love the empire. It's the war party, as Scott Horton has called it for so long. And as long as the power in Washington, D.C. keeps growing, you might see a little infighting here and there. But then, as we saw late yesterday, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi went into a press conference, I guess, talking about the great deal that they're working on with Donald Trump to put out $2 trillion in infrastructure spending when they actually wanted to spend less money. They went in and lowballed him. I don't know what number, maybe like $1.5 trillion, some nonsensical, comical, insane amount. And Trump was like, no, we got to ramp this up. And Schumer's out there giving this press conference. Old Chuckles is so happy that Trump is on team socialism. And then you still see the absurdity of them going to stand against the socialist dictator when they're spending more and more and more and then proposing more on top of it. I don't know. Am I even on topic here? I'm just rambling.
No.
I can't stand these people. So
This is exactly why I wanted to have you on today. It's okay for you to vent. That's what the gold standard is for. But let me hit you back with this, since you kind of went off topic a little bit. Let me hit you back with this. But the Trump supporters, this is where the 4D chess comes in, right? Because they would make the argument that, well, he's playing the game. You know, he's going to give Schumer and Pelosi a little bit of what they want, and in exchange, he's going to get something that he wants. But
okay,
as
well,
far
that
as I
doesn't mean
can
he's
tell,
anything but garbage. But.
Well, yeah, as far as I can tell, nothing that any of them want is A, constitutional, B, just logical or principally makes any sense at all. So you brought up. I saw that little press conference. I actually saw it in Good Morning Liberty because when we turned on the show and I heard a voice.
It's a pretty decent program.
I heard a voice and it didn't sound like you. And I was like, that's weird. Are we having audio troubles? No, it was Chuck Schumer talking. How dare you, sir? How dare you bring Chuck Schumer in here?
It's the first time I've ever actually been able to successfully play someone else's video on a live stream. So I'm very proud of that. Unfortunately, it was two people that make me ill just by seeing their faces. It was Chuck and Nancy. But the thing is, they were just ecstatic. So where were you going with this?
Well, to your point right there is that they were ecstatic, is that you see this happiness because there's this bipartisan support going on for more spending and raised budgets. So I want to try to tie that back around to John Bolton. I'm gonna try my absolute best to put myself in John Bolton's mind. I know that's really scary, but I'm going to do my best to put myself in his mind. What is the goal? Like, assuming their goal isn't destroy the Earth.
Do you have the urge to slaughter people in other countries already? Because if you're in his head, it's probably there.
Hold on. My next point is going to be talking about people who want to slaughter people when I go back to your Facebook page. Hold on. Put a cork on that one for a second. I'm putting myself in John Bolton's head. Now, if you were trying to really give this man the benefit of the doubt, what is the goal that they're trying to accomplish with this rhetoric and with their foreign interventions? Assuming everything went the way they wanted it to, what would that look like?
What do you mean? I guess I don't understand the question.
So
if John Bolton wasn't an evil piece of garbage, what could possibly be good about opposing socialist dictators? Well, of course, oppose socialist dictators, but lead by example. So there is no good in telling them to get more libertad. It was so demeaning in my mind to Spanish speakers to like throw out one word in an official White House video. Like the arrogance and hubris of these people. He says, you know, overthrow this guy. We won't have any more sanctions on you and you can regain your libertad. Thanks, white guy. But so Bolton is a piece of garbage, and I can't imagine any good coming out of interfering in other people's policies or other people's countries. The only way that you get good out of it is to lead by example so people can see that liberty is actually a pretty good thing. And Bolton isn't on board with liberty. I mean, I guess it's hard for me to answer that question.
I guess what I'm driving at is that, so I think back to interventions in the Middle East. I think back to the war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, and I remember Benjamin Netanyahu speaking in front of U.S. Congress, because that makes perfect sense, right? And actually it does make perfect sense for them. And there was a particular line that Netanyahu said, which was, I can see overreaching positive reverberations of regime change in Iraq. The way they were selling it is that, well, if we topple Saddam Hussein in Iraq, you're going to see this outpouring of positive change all throughout the region. And of course, that's never the case.
Isn't that the same argument that we got from what was Hillary's buddy, Kissinger?
Yes.
That's the same argument we got was the domino theory. You know, you take down the communists in North Vietnam, and you're going to have this domino effect where you're going to have freedom just reign around the world, or at least in that part of the world, and communism would fall. Well, I mean, it's just been replaced by kind of a pseudo-corporatism with rather than a singular polar world. Instead of two giants fighting against each other, there's just one running rampant around the world. So I think it's the same theory, and it's absurd to me, and it's almost like history is not going to look too kindly on the intelligence level of the average American, because this is the same argument that we've heard, and I don't know who this we is, but human beings who live in the United States have heard this same crap argument over and over, decade after decade, war after war, and the same results happen. You just make a mess, you waste a lot of money, you destroy a lot of lives, you destroy a lot of property. And the people at the top, the military-industrial complex, the people in government, the contractors, the Pentagon, they all keep enriching themselves in power and money. And if people aren't going to oppose that, I think it's going to be, this country, when it falls at some point, is going to be a laughingstock in history. Like, look, they keep getting sold the same things. I remember back in the day, in the 90s or so, mid-90s, when I first moved to LA from the Midwest, every cab driver that I had was basically an Eastern Bloc guy. Yeah. Russian, Ukrainian, whatever. And all of them were more well-versed in foreign policy, geopolitics, than anybody that I could talk to that lived in my neighborhood or anywhere. Wisconsin, California, anywhere that I traveled, they understood that problems with Iran arose from overthrowing the Shah and interventionism by the CIA. People are like, oh, everybody knows this, you know. And then here back in my home country of Russia, you know, and I'm probably being demeaning as well. Like I'm John Bolton now at this point, trying to throw on this accent. But these cab drivers, invariably, they would start talking about the issues with propaganda. They're like, man, we had Pravda. But everybody knew this was bullshit. We were all lied to. We all knew it. You guys listen to your ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and you think that you're getting the truth. Like, you're so stupid. And to be told this by, not that a cab driver is a bad profession, but these aren't, I mean, maybe some of them were university teachers that had to escape communism, come here and laugh at us at how dumb we were to pay attention to this propaganda. And people are still hearing it to this day. Oh, yeah, the Netanyahu speech, Vietnam. I'm sure it's going to be some kind of garbage. They're going to regain their libertad, John Bolton. There's going to be liberty in Venezuela, and that can lead to more liberty all over South America, and it's going to stop the caravans. People are not going to want to come to the U.S. anymore. If people are going to fall for that, I guess their fate is their own problem.
So,
unfortunately, though, it takes the rest of us with them.
Speaking of people, since you have such a high opinion of the average voter, let me read something else for you. This is our hemisphere, and we are supposed to put up with a dictator running over their people, killing them and starving them to death? Triple question mark, so you know that this is a really hard question. Yes. What do you propose we do? Our country can't take any more in. What do you have to say to that?
Oh my God. Again, so I tweeted yesterday, basically, and this is part of the motivation to it. This was a response to us basically calling out the absurdity on our Facebook page for the 10th Amendment Center, the absurdity of someone like John Bolton demanding that another country follow the Constitution when you can't even follow it here in the United States. You don't even come close. And my episode on Good Morning Liberty this morning was primarily, like, I talked about the Schumer thing and the fact that the Trump administration wants to spend so much money. They're socialist pigs. They're awful. But it was primarily about the right to keep and bear arms. The fact that the palladium of liberty, the natural right, which basically protects all others, is the right to defend yourself. And it is not just defending yourself against a deer, and it's not just defending yourself against a criminal trying to rob your property, kill your family, things like that. These are all parts of it. But it's also defending yourself against your own government and against dictators who might want to take over your government and take over your land. So if people actually followed the Second Amendment, which means shall not be infringed, it didn't say shall not be infringed unless the caliber was too high, then you wouldn't have to worry about these dictators in collapsing economies where they have no money and people are just trying to escape. You wouldn't have to worry about that. There's like, it's still meddling, but you can defend yourself against this if your own government in your own hometown, your own state, your own country are not violating your right to defend yourself. That's a real problem where you're basically relying on militarism and a military empire to be concerned about what's happening in every country on earth. We heard the same argument about Saddam. If you don't stop Saddam, sooner or later they'll be over here. You know, we're lucky to have all this, or we'd be speaking German today. Well, ich sprechen Sie Deutsch a little bit, so it's not a terrible thing. Wow, that's a whole nother direction.
Well, so I mean, here's the thing.
And I probably got off track. So.
No, you're fine. This is everything that I had hoped for and more.
You are everything I hoped for.
Well, thank you. So I'm spacing it at the moment. What year was it that Venezuela basically confiscated all firearms? Was it 2012?
I think it was 2013.
2013. Okay.
First of all, I got it. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about Venezuela.
Well,
I don't know anything about Venezuela. I don't know anything about their internal politics. I don't know anything. I do know that they're a socialist country. Well, at least that's what we're told. I mean, it could be some kind of a fascist or corporatist or mercantilist. I mean, who knows? A lot of what we hear is propaganda. And if I take the cab driver's advice, that all of them that told me to stop paying attention to any type of news media and do the research myself, I have not researched Venezuela. I'm certain that it's really bad there. I do read that they banned private ownership of guns. Well, they've certainly done the same here.
Sure. Well,
I mean, anyone who's cool with the status quo and doesn't have a problem with the National Firearms Act of 1934, the Gun Control Act of 68, the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988, the amendments to the Gun Control Act of 1986, all this stuff. If anybody is okay with that and thinks you have the right to keep and bear arms instead of the privilege to keep it as long as government doesn't tell you that your gun doesn't fire too fast, that's not a right. But that's not a right that's being exercised.
But Michael, those were all the Democrats doing that. The Republicans didn't pass any of those measures.
Well, I guess if you call the NRA Democrats, sure, because the NRA as an organization, and I really need to, because I've wanted to say this for a while and I've held back. But at least from a cursory look, there is no organization in the United States that has gotten successfully as much gun control passed on the federal level than the NRA. They were behind the NFA. I'm not sure about the Gun Control Act, but they definitely got the NICS system, the National Background Check System, and they brag about getting the Undetectable Firearms Act, which makes all 3D printed guns illegal according to the government. Of course, you still have a natural right to produce whatever you want to produce. If you want to make a firearm, that's up to you. It's what you do with things that you should be responsible, not what you own. And it's the same mentality on the right in regards to plants like marijuana. They want to control what you own because you might potentially do something bad, as the left who wants to control what you own in regards to a firearm because you might kill somebody with it. We hear the same arguments for both these horrible groups of people, that really it's all about prohibition of what you own. And I don't know. I don't have a summary.
No, that's okay. There's. I want to say. I want to say one thing really quick before we move on to the next little bit here. And this is more for our libertarian audience, our ANCAP audience. I've seen this.
Do you have another audience?
Well, actually, yes, because probably once or twice a week I'll get these little rush of friend requests from people who have like thin blue line stickers and whatever.
Okay.
And you know what it always is they saw me say something mean to a Democrat, so they think, oh, he's one of us. And as soon as I say, fuck the cops, then how dare you? You know, we're going to get to that in a second. But one thing I want to say really quick is I've seen a lot of people who say, I have no sympathy for the Venezuelans because they're all socialists. Now, hold on just a second. Are they all socialists? Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. And
I'm assuming the person who said that to you is a socialist.
Maybe, but probably. But here's the thing.
Well, they're military socialists. They're policing
Yes.
socialists. They love Social Security. Don't get rid of my benefits. I paid into that. They don't understand what they're talking about, and they are implicitly and expressly supporting socialism by program, even if not broadly in name.
Yeah, exactly so.
They're
But
all socialists.
But I want to send a message to people that have that attitude is, for one, you can absolutely sympathize with innocent people that are being hurt, being killed, being starved because they're living the nightmare of a socialist regime that's falling apart. Yes, you absolutely can sympathize with those people. I also sympathize with them for ways in which the CIA or the U.S. government in general has affected that region that has made the nest for such things to fester. In those ways, yes, I absolutely sympathize with them. And do I not sympathize with people who are socialists who their answer to this government problem is more government? Yes, obviously, they in some ways they've reaped what they've sowed. But I also want to say more to just the American public at large that you just shared that anecdote about how your Eastern Bloc cab driver just is more plugged in to foreign policy, to things
Mind
going
you,
on.
that was not an unusual experience. I don't own a car. I haven't for a long time. I rode a lot of cabs. It's all Uber or Lyft or bike share or something these days. This was over and over and over. And especially once the war in Iraq started, this was constant. And it was different people all the time. And you would hear the same kind of thing. Well, you know, the U.S. was picking sides in that Iraq-Iran war throughout the 80s. You would hear things like this. People understood this. And then you would talk to people, even at an anti-war protest. And half the time they would be like, what do you mean the 80s? I don't know. What does that mean? Bush is bad. They should impeach Bush. And like even the anti-war side of things had it all wrong. They just really wanted to oppose the guy in power. And then, of course, that anti-war movement slithered away like little snakes, primarily, not all of them, but primarily like little snakes once Obama came in office and did the same crap, if not worse.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the same crap, let me read another little thing for you here really quick.
Oh, no.
I know.
Comments from a 10th Amendment Center thread.
But this is the thing, though, and I've told Meharry this several times. I love 10th Amendment Center threads because, for one, you guys do amazing work, and you should always be applauded. And I literally say, like, at least every other week, hey, guys, you should be donating to the 10th Amendment Center. But not just that. It's an eye-opening experience for people in their echo chambers. It's definitely an eye-opening experience for the Trumpers and the Obamites who go to your page and are like, wait a minute. They don't bend their principles to what I want. How dare they? But it's also an eye-opening experience for the people in the libertarian or ANCAP echo chamber who think, oh man, we're just spreading liberty and the ideas are growing. Holy shit, guys. Take a look at this. I totally agree we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy that everyone calls us. Then we cut off aid to everyone, put our boots on the border, and slaughter everyone trying to get in. Slaughter everyone trying to get in.
John McCain.
Exactly. Everybody is John McCain. Even and I think to a little bit to a point of what you've been making so far is there's a lot of people who talk the talk. Like you talked about, they said libertad. There's a lot of people who talk about freedom and liberty, and I'm a part of the 3%, and they're not going to take my guns and all this crap. They say those flowery words. But when the rubber meets the road, they are authoritarian statists through and through.
Yeah, don't cut off my Social Security. That's a standard one when it comes to spending in socialist programs. We hear repeatedly oh, Social Security isn't a socialist program. I'm like, man, dude, it's in the freaking name. Like, don't call. But yeah, I mean, that's how they just sold. That was FDR. I mean, this is a socialist program. I paid into it. No, you didn't pay into a savings account for you. You were robbed to pay someone who's older than you who needs the quote benefits right now. And it's a self-perpetuating system that everyone keeps thinking that they're paying in and they've got some kind of savings account out there and it's due back to them. Yes, I am totally on board with getting as much money back from the government as possible in every form possible, whenever you can, whether it's tax refunds, unemployment, Social Security. Just take all the money back. They've been stealing from you since day one. But to think that it isn't a socialist program and it isn't self-perpetuating just shows complete ignorance.
Well,
I'm trying to be nice.
One thing that I'm reminded of, over the last few weeks, we've had Lou Rockwell on the show, and we also had Ron Paul on the show. I know,
what are you
right?
doing today?
We've gone way downhill from there, my friend. But
well, the thing is, you really should spread out your top guests. So back when I was a DJ, our standard rule was the 3-to-1 rule. Mm-hmm. Like if once the club got full-ish and you wanted people to dance to new music that they had never heard, every third song you would play something that they were totally familiar with, that they love. Maybe they heard it on the radio as a remix or something like that. So when you played some other garbage that they weren't aware of, they may kind of start leaving. But if you do back to back to back, sooner or later you run out of the good ones. I mean, Rockwell and Ron Paul in a week?
Well, no, that was over the course of about a month. See, in between there, we had a solo episode, which nobody watches that garbage. No. And we also had Dave Benner, and we were just talking about Game of Thrones for like 50 minutes. So.
Oh, I missed the Benner episode. I saw you guys post about it. You want to talk about Game of Thrones?
I mean, if you want to. I mean, we were going to do a commercial, and then the closing segment today was going to be us reviewing last week's Game of Thrones. But if you want to stick around for that, you can.
Do we have to do the commercial?
Well, we don't have to, right? Would you just quit trying to hijack my show? The point being is that, so first of all, if you missed the Benner episode, it was great. So he spent about an hour on some sort of neo-Confederalist rant, and we just nodded politely. And then we talked about Game of Thrones. But the point being is that all of those guests all said something very similar, which was, I don't want to get too much into the 2020 election. I tend to think Trump's probably going to win because the Democrats are a total nightmare right now. However,
I don't know.
However, Trump, of course, there's always candidate politician and then in-office politician, right? We know that. And candidate Trump was Iraq and Afghanistan are a quagmire. We should have never gone over there, blah, 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 blah. He said those things. Drain the swamp, all that crap. But, of course, you fast forward to today.
As politician Trump, he also said we're getting out of Syria.
Yes.
Keep in mind, of course.
Yeah. But then you fast forward to today, and specifically talking about draining the swamp. Fast forward to today, you've got Abrams, you've got Pompeo, you've got, of course, John Bolton.
The worst of the worst.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something I really wanted you to comment on, too, so that we can bring this around to Bolton, because we love venting about Bolton, is that how can anyone who supported Trump under the pretense of he is an outsider, he's not a career politician, he's draining the swamp, how can you possibly give that any credence today to any administration on any side of the aisle that gives any position to John Bolton?
Or Abrams? Or Pompeo?
Abrams, yeah. I mean,
well, I think, again, it just gets down to the average voter is stupid. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They have no principles other than support. No, it's not even support their team. It's oppose. So for Republicans, it's oppose Democrats. For Democrats, it's oppose Republicans. And they find themselves on different sides of the issue of sometimes the same issue depending on who's in power. And to me, that is a shameful position. Mm-hmm. And many people have very shameful positions that they may have some cognitive dissonance about, they may not even be aware of, or they may be actively making excuses as to why it's okay for someone like Trump to offer more spending than Schumer and Pelosi do. I mean, just the mentality that could go behind like, well, he's going to get something out of this. No. He's worse than Schumer and Pelosi. And Beto, what does he want to spend $5 trillion on climate change? I mean, $2 trillion on infrastructure isn't that far off. When you're talking trillions, they're spending a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So how do you, man, they're just terrible. People don't know they have really bad principles. or they're good on some things and then they're horrible on the rest, and they generally know almost nothing about the Constitution, which all these people supposedly swear to uphold and defend. They think that it's okay to have a guy like John Bolton or Jeff Sessions. I mean, these people have no respect for the Constitution, and you have to keep in mind who keeps appointing these horrible people. Brett Kavanaugh is not good either. The guy's terrible on the Fourth Amendment.
Well,
and they're okay with it.
Something that we talked about with Lou that he commented on is that, you know, a lot of the neocons are never Trumpers. A lot of them are very hostile towards Trump and have made very public statements saying, we hate this president, we don't support this administration. But then some of those same people then become appointees of the Trump administration after having already made public statements deriding the guy.
I thought for a moment that maybe the Bolton thing was part of the Trump-style negotiating strategy. That is, ask for something that I actually was thinking maybe or hoping. I don't know. Maybe I was hoping with North Korea. Because right at the time, the whole kind of North Korea back and forth trash talking was happening. Trump brings on Bolton, and a lot of people are like, holy crap, this is like the worst of the worst when it comes to foreign policy. He is horrible. You might as well have hired Dick Cheney for the same position.
Yeah.
Right? Or Kissinger. Bring back Hillary and Kissinger, and like it's going to be really, really bad. But for a moment, I had the fleeting hope or thought that maybe he brought him in, and because everyone knows Bolton is terrible, that, okay, Bolton's going to threaten nuclear waste on anybody who opposes him, and people are going to believe it because Bolton will do it or push to make it happen. And then all of a sudden, North Korea comes to the table to talk. And I'm thinking, wow, the first time in my lifetime, I actually had tears for a moment, that anyone would be willing to talk to the North Koreans. Another horrible, oppressive government. But it's always better to have conversations with people than to point a bunch of warships at them.
Yeah.
So, wow, okay, maybe he went over the top negotiating, got at least a conversation. I'm not sure how it's all going to play out, but I don't see that as being the case. It is John Bolton going absolutely nuts. Is he doing the same thing in Venezuela? I don't know. Pompeo earlier today was suggesting that the U.S. might invade. I don't know where in the Constitution that is up to Mike Pompeo or anyone in the executive branch. I mean, this is just nonsense. These people are terrible, and people who are okay with it because they like Trump's rhetoric on the border. Now, Trump's success on the border has been garbage. It is not good. You can literally look. I read the annual reports from ICE. They do an annual report on ERO, which is enforcement and removal operations. So in Obama's last year in office, they did 246,000 removal operations. In Trump's first year in office, it went down to like 225. And then last year, now the report came out a little late because of the so-called shutdown, but last year it was around 250. So it's not statistically much different. So at this pace that Trump is on, about 250,000 a year, which is about the same pace that Obama was on, there is zero chance in hell. It is a fantasy for the people who think that Trump is there to get rid of all the illegals. There's, 10 or 11 million, according to most people? What is that? 40 years. If no one new comes in, if they totally shut down the border, and no one new crosses the border illegally for the next 40 years. At this pace, it'll take 40 years. And Trump's got to stay in office, do the exact same thing. So it's impossible. So people who really supported him for this type of thing, it is a total failure. It can't be done. And yet they keep supporting him, and they're still okay with people like Bolton and Pompeo. Pompeo hates the Fourth Amendment. Bolton hates the separation of powers. I mean, if you take John Bolton versus the views of people like James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and people like that, there's nowhere close. So what am I getting at? The people who support this are okay with a bunch of trash. And when you support or you turn a blind eye to that, you shouldn't be surprised when a President Biden or a Kamala or whoever ends up on the other side eventually winning, when they have even more power. Again, just look in the mirror, because you were okay with it under the Trump administration. You were okay with it under the Bush administration. We hear the same kind of arguments, though, that we heard when Bush was in office. Oh, there's a dictator. That's what that person says. What are we going to do about Saddam Hussein? Well, what are we going to do about Maduro? It's the same thing. We don't need to do anything about them, but show how to live more free.
Yeah. Wow. I just want to point out, by the way, that I have said on this program a number of times that people are stupid and most people don't have principles. And I've taken some heat for saying that, because I've had a lot of people message me and say, just because people think different than you doesn't mean they don't have principles, Alan. Well, I just want to point out, Michael Bolton also said people don't have principles. So if you
guarantee it.
So,
I guarantee it. As someone who came out of the hard left, I always I identified. I'm a trans Marxist, I guess. So I was born a socialist, and then I had a trans procedure, and I'm no longer. But I used to identify as a Marxist or a socialist. I wanted something different, but I was dumb. I went to government school. But we all went to government schools. Even if we went to private schools, we went to government-approved schools
Sure.
that teach government-approved texts. And yes, we're taught a bunch of garbage all along, but unfortunately, so that's how we're dumb. We all grew up dumb. We were all educated dumb. Some of us were very lucky and learned some things, but we did not learn. We had those of us who have some level of intelligence. Everybody has the level, but those of us who really want to go further learn on our own. But the way that we were taught, we are stupid. There's no doubt about it. No one knows anything about the ratification debates. You're never taught this. You're basically taught, well, the Supreme Court says that the federal government can do this. My government school taught me that every time there's a problem, you go to government. I was stupid. I'm still stupid on some things, and I'm trying to learn. But the way that people don't have principles, when I was this Marxist, I was with the hard left anti-war movement. I'm still anti-war today, but I was a left-wing version of that. And then soon as Bush got out of power, that went away. And that's basically the same thing that we see with the Tea Party. When Obama was in power, people like Ted Cruz were willing to shut down the government over Obamacare. Once Trump's in office and he's getting challenged from the hard left by Beto or Beto, whatever the guy's name is, then Cruz is okay voting to fund Obamacare. So like these people flip and flop and back and forth depending who's in power, and that's the people who are bad. Now, people who don't do that, great. Then you have principles. But a lot of people in power and a lot of their supporters are okay making excuses, just like the Obama people made excuses about Obama not shutting Guantanamo. Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. They never hold anyone's feet to the fire. They never vote bums out. They just vote in more bums. They're just really bad. I don't know. I don't have a lot of high hope for people. I also don't necessarily think that Trump is a shoo-in. I had tweeted earlier in the week that my personal opinion is that we have two things that are coming at us in 2021, either a Trump re-election or Biden, because either way, it's more war. And the war party seems to always win. And Trump, at this point, I really believe that the only way he's going to stay in office is if he has a full-scale war. And if not, if he doesn't do it, then people are going to get behind Biden, who is a warmongering pig, some of the worst of the worst. John McCain's family loves him, so that should tell you enough right there.
Sure. Well, something we talked about in the last few episodes is everybody remembers back when Ron Paul was running in 08 and 12.
You had your chance, people.
Well, you had your chance. But we all remember when they would have the polls on TV, and let's say, just for simplicity's sake, let's say Ron was polling at 20%. So they wouldn't put his name on TV. So if you add up the numbers, it only adds up to 80, and you're like, wait a minute, this poll can't possibly be right. It's because, and granted, he was obviously against the status quo in a lot of ways, but really, just being anti-war is enough for the corporate press, for everybody to be against you. And Lou and Ron, everybody have also mentioned that kind of about Tulsi Gabbard. That, don't get me wrong, Tulsi Gabbard is hardly the libertarian dream we're all wanting, for sure. But she balks at the warfare state. And think about this for a second. She checks a lot of boxes, right? Like let's cut the crap. She's a woman, she's got tan skin. She's a socialist. She wants a whole bunch of entitlements and welfare. She's a lefty. She's for social justice, equality,
guns.
all that stuff. You would think, in a vacuum, if I told you nothing else, and I just said this is candidate X, you would think, oh man, they're going to love this one. This is the candidate they want. But it's
Over
not.
Biden?
No, Tulsi Gabbard.
I know, but over Biden? Why would they love
no,
her?
no,
She's
hold
not
on.
pro-war.
But that's the thing. If in a vacuum, if with just what I said, that's the ideal leftist candidate. But she's off on them on just the one thing, which is she's not for the empire. And
She's
it's
also against the drug war.
She's also, yeah, this is true. She's also against the drug war. But it just goes to show you that if you don't toe the line on just that one thing, then there is no anti-war party. The Republicans, Democrat, it doesn't matter. They will unperson you if you don't toe the line on the most important thing, which is the empire.
I got to throw out there, and I know I'm just going to avoid the democracy versus republic thing.
Yeah.
But the great H.L. Mencken, the quote that democracy is the theory that the people know what they should get out of government and deserve to get it good and hard.
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind that although there is the corporate media, I'll use censorship just because it's easy. Censorship, social media censorship, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't, there's a market response here. And most people are going to government-run schools like I did, like all of us did in some way or another.
Sure.
And we're taught that government is good. And we're taught that government is going to solve problems, that America is bringing liberty to the world and protecting us. I had a very hard time when I first realized that America, in many ways in history, has been the bad guys. And that was very difficult. I cried, but it's truth. So you have to, truth is not easy. It's not awesome all the time. But truth is truth, and you can't change that. And a lot of people they're on Team America World Police, man. I mean, that's when you get down to it. And the market is also demanding people that are wanting to do this. I mean, what was that lady's name? Patty. I know it sounds like one comment, but this is a very common thing from people on the left and the right. The left, now they want to take on Russia. They're not even in the top 5 in spending, military spending. The U.S. spends more on military, so-called defense, primarily offensive military, a little bit of defense, than the next 10 countries, 8 or 10 countries combined. Russia just fell out of the top 5. They're at 3%, when the U.S. is way more. It's not even close. Russia is no threat. I mean, basically no one is a military threat to the United States of America. No one on earth is at all, period. And to think that this is the case, that there's always having to be a conflict with other countries, or that the military has to be in 170 countries around the world, is just complete ignorance. And of course, as long as people have that level of ignorance about things, at least in large numbers, even if it's not everybody, there is a large enough contingency of people who think that this is okay. The status quo is necessary to protect freedom, even though there is no real freedom here in the U.S. There's some glimmers of it, but it's going away. As long as people have that view, you're going to end up with the Trumps and the Boltons and the Bidens and the Kamalas and all these things. The people want this kind of garbage, and they keep demanding more.
I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on what you started with right there. You said that everybody went to government schools and they were taught that government is good. And I agree with that. A little bit of a spin I would put on that is that I think people are taught that government is us. We are government. And here's the thing, though. Everybody's the hero in their own story, right? We could do no wrong. We are the good guys.
Yeah.
No, and of course, I keep on saying that word we, and we've done this on the show a million times. We hate the word we, but people know what I'm talking about. Don't be a neckbeard for a second, you guys. You know what I'm talking about. The people are taught that we are government. Government is us. And we can't, no one can look in the mirror and reckon with, are we the bad guys? That's a hard thing for people to come to terms with. And some people do.
I've done a lot of bad shit in my life. I don't know if I'm a good person. I don't know. I try.
Well, the way I look at it is that, I mean,
and
without
if government is me, I wouldn't want me in charge of me.
Well, I've told a lot of people, look, you guys, you definitely don't want me to be president, because I would use all the powers they've delegated to the executive to be striking at my foes left and right. I'd be happy to tell you that's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I would do.
All you have to do is say Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the guy that probably is the best 10th Amendment Constitution federalism supporter in American history, and yet maybe Patrick Henry. Even when he got in power, he was willing to use powers that were not delegated to him. And they all do it. The corruptive influence of power is great. And mind you, that was at a time when Jefferson took office, there were only about 130 non-military employees in the entire federal government. And that was considered, when Jefferson got in there, he considered that too big. So you imagine people today going like, man, we got 130 employees, we got to do some cuts. Nonsense. They never use the previous person's expansion of power as a ceiling, like, oh, I can't go beyond the last guy. They always use it as a floor. And that's why the national debt, the spending keeps ramping up over where Obama did it. Obama ramped up over. And I don't know how much you paid attention to things back in the Bill Clinton days. I didn't heavily, but I remember how bad Republicans thought Bill Clinton was. But if you compared Bill Clinton to Donald Trump, Clinton would be a small government guy. And that should be a shameful position for anyone to take.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, something that I say all the time is that for those of us that love history, that are the historian types, we know that history is an ongoing process. I mean, history is being written as we speak. But in general, things take time. Like great movements take years, decades, generations to happen. But it definitely seems like the growth of government and the expanse of the role of government has increased exponentially so quickly that Democratic presidents from my teenage years or late adolescence would be considered conservatives by today's standards of even a conservative.
Oh, yeah. The communists, the Marxists are really good at it. And then the people who vote in and support the small government people continue getting bigger government. They talk about how Obama slashed the military. This is nonsense. Obama slashed, to some degree, the rate of increase of military spending, but it was still growing. I mean, in politician speak, cuts mean cutting the increase. So instead of increasing at 10% a year, it's increasing at 8%, but it's still increasing. And I know a lot of people refer to Republicans as, they say, Democrats are going to the fiscal cliff. They're going to drive us off the cliff at 90 miles an hour, and Republicans are going there at the speed limit. I think they're all going there at 90 miles an hour. And even if you were going the speed limit, the end result is driving off the cliff. And no society can handle this forever. I watched a great speech from a guy named Chalmers Johnson years ago, who's passed away. He was basically one of Ron Paul's go-to guys on foreign policy. He was a CIA guy for the Vietnam region during that time. And he wrote a series of books on blowback. And I saw this speech years ago when Bush was in office, and he basically said, the amount of money that this country is borrowing from China to continue its military adventurism, it's not going to last forever. He's put it this way, and it always sticks with me. Things that can't go on forever don't. And although the idea of a Mad Max scenario might sound romantic to some people, we'll rise up, we'll have a new American Revolution. History has shown us that in most collapses, you don't get more freedom, you get a Mao or a Stalin or a Lenin. And I think it's a very, very dangerous position that we're in today.
Yeah, I definitely, one of my pet peeves are a lot of these folks, your internet warriors who think that we're on the verge of the next great awakening. That the people who think, these are the people that I dislike. The people who think that, well, it's because everyone's ignorant. If we could just sit down with all of America for 5 minutes and explain to them.
Yeah, but we don't have the manpower.
Well, but hold on. This is what I would say, though, is that even if you did, a lot of people are led to believe that if we could just explain liberty to everyone, then we would have our libertarian utopia. Here's the thing, though, guys. Most people are not interested in liberty.
Well, where they would be is if you show them. And I know, and I've read plenty of Rothbard and Mises and Hoppe. I've read all this stuff. Well, I couldn't get through Man, Economy, and State. I tried. It's just over my head. I tried and tried and tried, but couldn't finish. But I've read a lot of this, and I understand the principles, at least to some degree, and I think I'm decent. But in my experience, the vast majority of people are not going to come over to Team Liberty if you smash them over the head with some YouTube videos and with some Rothbard books. They're going to have to be proved to that liberty works. And that's why I'm so on board with marijuana legalization, because people are learning over and over and over that even if government tells you can't do it, there are still ways to do it. And I'd like to see people apply that same approach to guns, to healthcare, to education, everything else. Raw milk, doesn't matter what the issue is that people can still exercise their rights or do what they believe in, whether government gives them permission to or not. And I think that really, for me, is the driving force. And you only get that through examples. So back in the day when I first started doing this 10th Amendment Center stuff, and I would speak to conservative groups, Republican groups, and I would talk about weed legalization, I would get some groans. I mean, in many situations, I would win them over explaining the whole principles of the 10th Amendment, like the Fed shouldn't be involved, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times I got a lot of pushback. But these days, here it is 20 years later, and you find last summer, the state of Oklahoma, people in Oklahoma voted to pass the broadest medical marijuana law in American history. This is the reddest of the red states. Utah passed medical marijuana, Missouri. The reason that this is happening is not just some grand awakening from Republicans. It's because they've watched other states do it, and the world didn't come to an end like we were told it was going to do. And I think although it's a harder sell, I think that if some areas or states or communities, if Tennessee were to start allowing everyone to have machine guns, for example, would the world come to an end? I don't believe that. And I think if people prove that the world doesn't come to an end, there will be less opposition to it in 10, 20, 30 years down the line. Now, some people will tell you that we don't have that long to wait. Well, unfortunately, 100 years of tyranny, growing government, is not going to be changed overnight, no matter what anybody tells you. I think there's going to be a lot of pain ahead. You don't go from tyranny to liberty in a feather bed, is how Jefferson put it.
Let me ask you this. Are you up to date on Game of Thrones?
Yeah, man.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm not going to spoil anything.
There are no spoilers.
Okay, really quick. Everybody, you see me at home. I'm right here in the corner of the screen because we have Michael Boldin blown up. I'm waving at you. Hi, that's me. If you haven't watched Season 8, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones, mute the sound right now. Okay, so, Michael, I hated it. I think Game of Thrones sucks now. What are your thoughts?
I had some issues with the quality of the stream on the HBO Now app. Is that funny?
Well, no, I mean, I've heard people do have issues with that stream, so.
Well, I mean, in general, it works. I actually paid for it this season rather than just torrenting. I figured, it's a lot of work. I just want to watch it. Actually, I used to spend most seasons. I've got a friend who lives here in downtown LA, and at his condo, they actually have a full theater. So they actually were reserving it weekly, and we'd go and have like a Game of Thrones watching viewing party in an actual theater, like a 50-person theater. And that was really cool. I'm watching at home now, and at least from my understanding, the connection speed from HBO is only at like 5 megs down, and Amazon does it at 10. So like that really dark episode this week, there was a lot of pixelation issues, and we had all the lights off, and we cranked up brightness, and a lot of it was a little difficult to see. I thought a lot of the fight scenes were pretty cool. The grandiosity of it was pretty cool, but there were a lot of loopholes in the writing. This is not a show that in general I've seen as having a lot of continuity problems, and I can't enjoy something when I see, I love the fact that Arya is the one who killed the Night King, right? That, to me, the concept is awesome. But where the hell did she get a trampoline to jump over, 5 million dead people that didn't notice her, and she flew in out of nowhere? To me, that's absurd. You're having to figure out who lived, who died, how did Sam live? All the people that are supposed to live had some great heroic saving at the end, some kind of absurd, jump in from behind. What's the blonde lady's name?
Brienne.
No. The
Daenerys, the dragon?
Sociopath. Yeah, her. Right?
Sociopath, that's right. Yes.
Oh, no, to me, she's my favorite character because she is the most insane. She goes in and wages war because she's protecting people, and that's, I think, very, very applicable to what we see in the real world today. But was it Jorah? How does he come in and save her? No one notices him at the very last second. There's a lot of that. It was very cheesy as far as some of the continuity issues there. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it goes with Cersei and stuff, but the writing was a little tough. The production value is very high. I mean, they're spending a ton of money on that show.
So this is what I have to say. So first of all, I think Arya killing the Night King is just atrocious. That's just absolutely atrocious.
In that scenario, or just overall? You wanted it
just
to be
overall. First of all, I don't even think there necessarily will be a Night King in the books at all. Of course, the show is past the books.
Yes.
Yada yada yada. I don't think
Well,
the
I think
necessary.
that also has driven it kind of a little different. It's hard to do it. Like, you can have the best writers, but if it isn't coming, and I know it's Martin, George R. No,
Yeah,
who's the
George
guy?
R. R. Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know he's been involved in the show, but he hasn't produced one, I think, or written one since like the 4th season, something like that.
It's been a while. So here's
So you're basically having to read his mind.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is that if I was going to rate the episode, and I mean this, I rate the episode at 2.5 out of 10. And I know that's really low. And people are like, what, Alan, how can you say that? Because it was so cool and look how neat it was. Here's the thing. Other than the fact that it was way too dark, the filming is excellent. The quality of the program is excellent. The acting, for the most part, there's a couple of actors in there that are not great, but a lot of the actors in the show are excellent.
Did you watch it on a live stream?
Would I watch it on a live stream?
Did you
Oh, I
watch
did.
it
Yeah,
live
I
stream?
watched it from HBO. Yeah, I watched it from
Yeah,
their
I
stream.
think and if you're like on Comcast, then the quality is even worse than HBO now.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's so dark is it's not good for TVs.
It's really not.
You just
Yeah.
have to watch it in the archives or fully download it. I might actually do that because I want to see some of those scenes, and I loved like the scene where the red woman like lit all the swords up of the
Yeah.
Dothraki, right?
Yes.
Like, to me, I'm like, oh yeah, kick ass! Like, these guys are so badass. They're gonna roll in there, they're gonna go nuts. And then the fact that they just like the twist that they crushed our hopes as we're watching this so quickly. To me, that was actually really good writing. Like, there is like, if you're fighting a bunch of dead people, there's no way you're going to win. And to think that you got a little fire and these guys on horses are going to win, like, back to reality. That to me was the best scene in the film. Watching
but
them all die.
Here's the thing. So this is what I was going to say. It's a 2.5 out of 10, and despite the fact that yes, there was cool scenes, yes, the actors are great, the filming is great, but those things can't overcome just
Bad writing.
awful writing. Just
Yeah. No.
awful.
Well, so most action films to me, this would have fit in a genre as a standalone to me as an action film. And to me, in general, action films have horrible writing. Now, everyone who hears this that's a fan, Marvel films, I generally fall asleep. I can't get through Iron Man, even after trying it 3 times. I don't like the stories. I want to watch a film where I'm either feeling angry or in tears afterwards. I love Dr. Strangelove, Fried Green Tomatoes, things like that. But action films I generally don't like as far as the writing. It's very hard to do that, I think. And I don't think many people really pull it off well. I haven't watched the whole Civil War thing yet. Maybe that one's good. I've heard positive things. But in general, I think it's bad. But the winning part is like watching all this crazy stuff that you could never see in real life. And to me, like, that was cool. I just wish they would have cut out a lot of the cheesy save this person's life. I think in a real situation, if we can suspend reality and think like that battle actually happened, like, a lot of our heroes would be dead, if not all of them.
Of course.
They would all just be dead. And to me, that would make the show unbelievably good. Like, when I watch Walking Dead, every time someone died, I'm like, okay, finally, they killed somebody off. I think that show is still going, isn't it?
Yes, it's still going. Yes. So, okay, so 3 things really quick. Here's my three takes from the episode. Number one is it's hard for me to enjoy it because the decision-making of the people in the episode is so bad.
I agree.
I can't be led to believe that experienced generals are leading this army. It's too stupid. That's number one. Number two, from the whole Arya thing. This is a narrative nightmare. Like, it's like, I understand that, like, yeah, it's a twist, but look, just because something is a twist doesn't mean it's good. A twist has to actually be good for the twist to be good. The point being is that Arya has her own story arc. Her story arc is faceless man, go to Essos. She wants vengeance on the people that harmed her family, and of course she killed a bunch of the Freys and a bunch of other people. That's her story arc. You have the story arc of Daenerys, who she was a young girl. She basically got sold off to be a bride. She found herself, became Khaleesi, gathered her army, birthed her dragons. Now she's this great / sociopathic leader. That's her story arc. The story arc for Beyond the Wall / the others / the White Walkers / the Long Night and the War for the Dawn, that matters a lot more to the North / Free Folk / Jon Snow / Night's Watch. That's his story arc. John, and of course, and I'm a book reader, so I'm talking a lot out of my mouth from the books too. That's
Okay.
John's story. John doesn't really care a lot about Cersei. Like does John hate Cersei because of the things the Lannisters have done? Of course he does.
Yeah, but he would work with her, I think.
But John doesn't care because that's
Yeah.
not his arc. His arc is the others. And so you've ripped away the satisfaction. I don't care if the Night King ends up stabbing John and that's the end. The point being is that those destinies were entwined. And when you rip that away from that character and you give it to another character, now you're left with, I'm just dissatisfied because that story arc now can never be resolved
So to
appropriately.
me, that was one of the. I'm cool with the open end on that.
and
I
then-
actually
but
like
hold on,
films
and-
that don't answer questions.
And then the last thing is because you mentioned that last scene, just the way it went down. What made Game of Thrones great, what makes the books great, is yes, that it's visceral and it's real, and the good guys don't always just win, and people die, because that's what would happen when real people are put in these dangerous situations. You can draw a line right around season 4 to 5, where clearly that was the end of George R. R. Martin's influence, and now they've gone past the books, and now it's purely Dan and Dave, the showrunners of the show, because everyone has this idea of Game of Thrones being this very visceral program where good people die. That's no longer true. That was only true for seasons 1 through 4. That is no longer correct. It's no longer
the Night
true.
King was the good guy.
Do what?
Unless the Night King was the good
Well,
guy.
unless the Night King was the good guy. Who knows? I
Coming
mean,
to take out all the different emperors or kings.
yeah, exactly. He just wants a libertarian paradise. So here's the thing, though, is that even if you look at this last week's episode, because I know that the normies out there are like, but a lot of people died in that episode. No, those were all secondary characters. Only secondary characters died in this last week's episode. What made Game of Thrones great, like let's look at main characters right now. Like, I'm not going to count people in King's Landing. Let's look at just the North. So you have obviously Jon, Dany, Tyrion. Those are like the big three. And then your next level would be like Sansa.
Danny should be gone in that.
Yeah.
Sam should be gone, right?
Even Sam should definitely be dead, but he's still technically a secondary character. But I mean, and Brienne and
one of my
Jaime,
favorite.
at least one out of that group for sure should be dead, if not all of them. But I would even go so far as to say that the George R. R. Martin type Game of Thrones that I know, pick one of the main 3 to 5, at least one of them would have died. And that would have been the shocker. It's not a shocker to see Theon die because, again, from a narrative standpoint...
Everybody wanted him to die all along.
Well, his narrative had come full circle. He had been broken down, he had reformed, and now he is defending... So again, this is why I hate Arya killing the Night King. Look at Theon. His story arc is complete, and he died, and yeah, it's sad. And I love that actor. Alfie Allen's an amazing actor that played Theon.
Well, I've never seen him in anything else.
Yeah, but his story arc is complete. It made sense.
Yes.
Arya, this is what I'll say. This is what I'm afraid is going to happen. I'm afraid that the rest of the season is going to be Game of Aryas, and Arya's going to kill Cersei. Arya's already killed the Night King, and Arya's going to ultimately live. Arya's going to ultimately survive the show after having killed.
So what that tells me is that part of your reason for disliking the Arya kills the Night King storyline is what potentially could lead to. Now, let's say that's the end of her thing and it goes back to Jon Snow. Or it just, let's say Cersei kills Arya. I mean, it could be redeemable and say, that big battle episode had some crappy writing and a lot of loopholes. But you know what? They ended up going absolutely ape with the rest of it. It's possible. I don't know if the track record is really kind of up to that. It's possible. They've got 3 more episodes, right? I personally like the Arya killing the Night King. I still do. I think Jon Snow and the Night King to me would have been like, okay, that was obvious. I actually like the fact that they threw me a loop on that. Like I like the fact that they threw me a loop on the Dothraki all getting killed within like 48 seconds. Like that wasn't even like close. Like there wasn't even a battle there. I liked that because it was unexpected. And I think in a huge battle, things happen that are unexpected. But it could, if it goes the route that you're saying, I think it's kind of boring too, but we'll see.
I think it's going to end up. I guess what I would say is that I'm so dissatisfied with episode 3 that I feel like it's irredeemable at this point. Considering that we know there's only 3 episodes left and the show is over, I'm afraid I'm afraid at this point it is irredeemable. And that, which unfortunately for me, what that really means is we're all back on book watch. When is Winds of Winter going to come out? And the answer is
now. For all we know, the
knows?
Night King isn't dead.
True. I think in the show, the Night King is dead. I think in the show, I think the show is done with that story arc of the whole
possible.
others in the North. I don't think that, I'm certain the books will not play out that way. And while you are correct that if it had just come down to a sword fight between Night King and Jon Snow had won,
Cheesy,
yeah, that would have been cheesy. However, what should have it could have come down to a fight, but what should have happened is that the Night King doesn't die. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the living people die. It just means that the Night King is not permanently defeated.
I would have liked to see Bran kill the Night King.
I just want to see Ghost on the screen for more than 5 seconds.
Okay, so GOT, what other show should we talk about?
All right, well, I don't know. I feel like we've pretty much covered everything.
Go to thegoldstandardpodcast.com/Game of Thrones for 20% off all gear.
Yes, and also go to thegoldstandardpodcast.com/10th Amendment Center, where for as little as, and you'll just be redirected to the 10th Amendment Center, where for as little as $2 a month, you can become a member. Is that right?
Just like Alan Mosley is, which is really awesome.
Yeah, just exactly so. If you
I don't normally dox people on their membership. I almost never say it, but you've posted a bunch of times to say that like you're a member or like go do this. So,
and if you
Otherwise,
want to join more awesome conversations with people who say such things as that, because there was another good one in here. I wanted to find it. I can't find it now. Somebody else had said, I think your dissing Bolton was a little over the top. Did you have a Democrat write this? If you want to enjoy,
the response is basically if you think calling out John Bolton as a Constitution hater is a smear, and that was the term. If you think that's a smear, you know so little about the Constitution that you might as well be Nancy Pelosi.
So if you want to get more awesome content like that, you have to follow the 10th Amendment Center on Facebook, which is at 10th Amendment Center. And what is it on? What's it on Twitter?
At 10th Amendment.
At 10th Amendment. Is there any other links or anything you want to share?
No, that works, dude. I really appreciate chatting. This is fun.
This is fun. Well, I told you.
I got to watch the Benner episode. I was going to ask you what Benner said about the show, but I guess I got to just watch it.
Okay, I will. For one, yeah, God forbid anybody watch the show. But two, Benner's way nicer guy than me. I know you're shocked to find that out. He's way more positive about the show and the direction it's going than I am.
I actually respect Benner's TV opinions more than I do respect mine or yours.
Well, he's wrong, so that's a shame that you feel that way.
Even if he's wrong, I have more respect for his incorrect
But Benner
than his.
He sat on this couch, Michael. He sat on this couch next to me, and he's a Lannister. He's a Lannister supporter. That's a statist if I ever knew one.
I guess I'm not getting the joke.
No comment.
Really good.
So, guys, let's do another commercial break. All right, let's do another commercial break, guys. We will be right back after this.
Have you ever been talking politics with a friend and told, if you don't like it here, you should just move to Somalia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from the sandy beaches of Mogadishu, Sherry and I bring you Postcards from Somalia, one of the newer products of Little L Productions, where we take on all of the fallacies of the people who say, if you don't like it, you can just get out. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. Huh? We're already back? We're already back. All right, so clean up your language, Michael. We're back. We're going to do our quick conclusion because we already
Don't
talked
call
about.
John Bolton a fucking piece of shit on a live stream.
Yeah, so we're trying to clean up the goddamn language on this program so I can get more viewers. Thanks. Look at Blake over there's flipping out. He can't. His virgin ears can't handle this.
I love you too, Blake. All right, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having me on, and tune in next week. Oh, I'm not doing the close. Sorry.
No, what? No. What are we tuning in next week for?
I don't know.
I don't know either. It'll probably be some racist. I don't know.
Hopefully, Mahari stuck around at least for the Game of Thrones chat.
No, Mahari doesn't watch Game of Thrones.
I know. He seems to comment about this everywhere. I don't know how he has time to comment about Game of Thrones, a show he's not even watching, when he's supposed to be doing more sports ball.
Well, he's probably supposed to be doing work for the 10th Amendment Center. I don't think he does anything.
No. He's actually doing way too. He does more work for the 10th Amendment Center than I pay him for. So the struggle early on with Meharry, because he's so dedicated to everything the man does, is literally, dude, stop working so much. I'm not paying you to work that much. Okay, yeah. No, I appreciate the free work, but you're going to burn out if you go this level. So the key is to rein him in so he has time to live a little bit of life and continue his genius work for a lot more years, rather than most people. This is a serious note here.
Okay.
Most people who do activism generally come in and they go all out, balls to the wall for like 6 months, and you never hear from them again. And I think it's more important to do a little less for a lot longer and stay the course. So, and he's done a really good job with that and diversified all the projects that he works on. So, anyways.
Really? Because he always texts me saying he's burnt out and he's ready to quit.
Maybe. That would have happened like 6 years ago had he like not mellowed out.
I tell you what, not just anybody is willing to deal with a lawsuit from their own city, but Mike Meharry is. But this can't turn into a Mike Meharry love fest because he's already been on this program like 7 times. We're not going to have Meharry again for like 2 years.
All right, peace.
All right. Michael Boldin, thank you so much for being on the show. And it's 10thamendmentcenter.com. Go there, donate, become a member, but also give us money. Hold on, before we go away, Blake's getting ready to hit stop streaming. Blake, we have to beg for money first real quick. It's facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter's at Alan and Mosley. You don't have to do any of that. You go to our website, which is goldcenterpodcast.com. You go to donate button, type in 99999 and enter, put in your card information, give us all your money. You can also go to Patreon, which is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Thank you so much. And
How does Patreon work for you? Do you like it?
Wait, do I like Patreon? Yeah. I don't love the platform, but I'm a believer in giving people as many avenues as possible to pay me.
And then what kind of switcher do you guys use for your live stream?
What kind of switcher?
Yeah, what are we using for a video switcher?
Well, the software we're using is OBS, and Blake, what are we using?
V4EX, Roland V4EX.
Oh. Nice. Just curious.
Yeah. Well,
You guys do most live streams, like I think I do a pretty good job. Yours is definitely all pro.
and that's because I have the best producer in the libertarian community. Nay, all communities. That's Blake Osborne right over there.
Quit kissing my butt, man. It's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to get another week's show in.
Yeah, that's how we get to do an episode next week. Exactly right. Dude, if I was doing this, I would be in my bedroom and you and me would be talking between cans with a string.
That's what I do in my bedroom. I think I do a pretty decent job in my bedroom. It's definitely not studio level. But yeah, I mean, for grassroots, it's pretty awesome. OBS, I think a lot of people use. I use Wirecast and I just paid for it because I didn't want the learning curve on OBS.
Yeah.
But people love it. Are you multicasting too?
We're only doing Facebook right now. We actually only started doing streams just like a couple of episodes ago. We usually record and then edit it so that we don't have uh-ohs.
So the first episode of season 2, that was a pre-record, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I recently started using Restream.io.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love it. And the reach of my live streams have like tripled because, first I was just doing YouTube where I don't have much of an audience, but really wanted to build that up. And then I added Restream, and then I started multicasting to Periscope. Mm-hmm. And then once I got the paid version, which is $49 a month, then I was able to add Facebook and then DLive. And the ability to multicast is pretty awesome. And they have this chat application that when you pull it up, either in its own app or in a browser, that it pulls up all the live chat in all the platforms in one window. So you don't have to switch around. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm rambling. I like talking.
No, the only reason we do the streams now is because... our views, if you look at our analytics on Facebook and if you look at our downloads and listens,
how pissed you are.
It's just insanity. I mean, you can have 1 week where we do a stream where we talk to Dave about racist Lincoln stuff and it's through the roof. And then the next week, and it doesn't matter who the guest is. And I'll tell this, for people at home are now getting all the behind the scenes. So Lou Rockwell, I love Lou Rockwell. He's an amazing guy. He's a great benefactor to our movement. And if you don't like Lou Rockwell, you can kill yourself. With that said, Lou came on the show for which we are incredibly grateful, and it did not do that well. And I'm very upset about that. Because and I don't think it didn't do well because people hate Lou. It didn't do well because no one knew it happened because we can't get the message out there. But then the very next week we can have, Suzanne Sherman come on and she can be talking about survival. She can be talking about Prop 2. She can be talking about whatever. But here's the thing. The reason we stream is because if you can beg people with personal profiles to like, share, and comment, then it propagates. If you're just sharing from...
There is nothing more that does than that. Literally, those... I always say in my live streams that all the platforms are easily triggered.
Yes.
And literally free actions of smashing the like button,
Yes.
leaving a comment, or just sharing.
Yes.
That does so much to spread the word. So, like, even if you... Like on YouTube, I tell people, vote down if you don't like it, like whatever. But just taking those actions tells the platform that you're on that they should show it to more people. So-and-so interacted with this. So there is, we talk about like donating and stuff like that, but nothing helps reach more people, more new people than hitting the like button and commenting.
Nothing has grown. So the last few episodes that we've done since we started streaming and since we started doing like watch parties and begging people to share it on their personal profiles, not just pages, but actual profiles, our views have gone up like 1,000% over the last few weeks.
So how many views are you getting? Now, Facebook views, obviously, the statistics are terrible.
Yeah, they are.
Highly inflated. I actually use it. Most people will tell you for a standard static video, do a 5-to-1 ratio with YouTube's algorithm. So if you have 1,000 views on Facebook, it's really worth like 200. But for a long live stream, I do like 10-to-1. So if you're getting thousands of views, if you get 1,000 views on Facebook, it counts as 100 real views on YouTube, because most people are scrolling through them and they're counting as views people who are just literally in their feed 3 seconds without the audio on. So when you say it's gone up, how high are you getting on them now?
So I'll put it to you this way. Dave Benner was our first true live. Like, we've done some other streams of pre-recordeds. It was our first true live with audience interaction, the whole thing. And it instantly became our most watched video. Our most watched video before that was Scott Horton on his first appearance. Here's the thing. You want to hear something funny? Scott Horton's been on the show 2 times. The first time he came on was like episode 15. We were still relatively new. I mean, we have the awesome studio and stuff here, but it wasn't quite this set up, and we were still learning. And it was right around 1,000 views. And we were like, oh man, this is great. That same guest, Scott, came on like 2 months later when we're better. The production quality's better, the EQ's better, everything, the stream is better. So you would only stand, and we have more follows, more likes, so it stands to reason it would be more, right? Because it's literally apples to apples, but with more. No. The second time he came on, it was like 150.
Yeah,
Now, Dave Benner, who was our first true live stream, and granted we streamed it in the evening, it's more kind of like prime time and people are home and all that, I think it did 2,700.
Excellent.
Which was excellent. Now, here's the sad news for poor Dave, though. Dave was the act that went on right before Ron Paul. So, because somebody had to go on before Ron Paul and somebody had to go on after Ron Paul. So Dave
I've been a speaker before Ron Paul at events. That's
I know,
awesome.
you know. So Dave was our most watched episode for about 6 days until Ron Paul came on.
There's nothing wrong with being number 2 to Ron Paul.
I know. So the Ron Paul episode has become our most watched. It's our first episode to ever break 10K.
That's amazing.
It was just over. Like, you know how after a few days the traffic slows way down.
Yes.
So it came to a stop at about 10.1.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, just keep hammering. And I can't swear by Restream enough. Like, multi-platform is like, just because people like it. I know your YouTube isn't it. Same with me. YouTube doesn't have as much reach as Facebook.
Yeah.
But Facebook gets a lot of drive-by reach. I think you get more meaningful reach on YouTube. And a lot of those people on YouTube don't want to come over to Facebook. They hate it for good reason.
Yeah.
So I can't swear by it enough.
The reason why I've been kind of like putting most of my energy into Facebook and Facebook streaming is just because I feel like at the juncture that we're at, it's not for a lack of trying, and it's not for a lack of having amazing guests, and it's not for a lack of look, I don't mind tooting my own horn here. Most people are doing this from their closets. We have a pretty decent setup here at the Gold Standard. Yeah. But the reality is that in the real world, outside of your own mind, most people they've never seen you. Like, they've never had that 5-second drive-by to even know you existed. And Ron Paul was such an awesome guest to have, because I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of people who tuned in for Ron Paul, obviously, and there's no problem with that. It's the whole point of having guests that were saying, I didn't know this guy existed. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I've only been doing this a couple of years now. But the point being is that they work in the same circles. They know a lot of the same people that we know. They watch a lot of the same content that we watch.
There's a lot of content out there.
There's a lot of content out there, and they just never knew. So, yeah, it sucks, but, you know, we got to keep
No, it's awesome, dude. You're basically doing the thing that needs to be done.
That's what I tell myself.
Dude, you're doing the thing that needs to be done.
Here's
literally. You're being consistent. You're continually doing it. You keep putting out content. Sometimes you have well-known guests. Sometimes you don't, but you keep doing it.
Here's the thing. This is the question that I think everybody wants to have answered. It's not the hot dog sandwich thing. I'm giving you a reprieve on that.
I've already been asked that.
Did I already ask you that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, in that case, the follow-up question is cereal a soup?
If you eat it dry, it isn't.
What if you eat it in a bowl of milk?
Define milk.
Milk. Like
with almond or cashew or hemp?
Jesus. This is why I can't talk to Michael Bolton right here. Wait, all right.
It's in a liquid.
Take your pick, whichever one you like. Does that then quantify the bowl of cereal as a soup?
I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So
how dare you? No, the question everybody wants to know is I think you should have me on Good Morning Liberty. I think I should be your first guest.
I'm never going to do guests.
No, you should have me. If you're going to have Chuck Schumer on your show, you should have me.
Right. Oh, I could do a clip of you saying something about Chuck Schumer.
He is a delight. What a wonderful man.
Meharry is actually going to be doing, I don't know if he's mentioned this to you, but he's doing a 10th Amendment Center interview show.
That's a terrible idea.
Oh, no, it's going to be awesome. So he just interviewed this dude, Pat McGeehan, who's a delegate in West Virginia, who's been working on this kind of defend the guard thing to resist the use of state militia troops in unconstitutional, immoral overseas deployments. And so he just interviewed him. And yeah, he's going to be interviewing people that do stuff. So I don't know why you aren't hitting him up instead of me, because I'm like a dead end.
Because I already hit him up to talk about hockey.
And I'm not really a big fan of soup anyways. Or sandwiches.
Wow. Unbelievable. This is I feel bad, but it's okay, because this is the content people have come to expect from the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. It's just
this is the kind of show that never ends.
Yeah, I know. I really wanted this to be like 30 to 45 minutes. We've been talking for 3 days.
Dude, I did a very similar podcast. Do you listen to Lions of Liberty at all?
I do some, yeah.
So Electric Liberty Land, I think, is their, I don't know, maybe their midweek show. It's Brian McWilliams. I had him and Jason Stapleton over, and they insisted, and this is someone who doesn't do this, they insisted that we all drink. So, mind you, that was also going to be a 30-minute episode.
Sure.
Unless it was edited down to 30 minutes, but it was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'll just keep talking, dude, until you just literally stop the show. Who's the host here? Why are you not in charge?
Well, Blake is the one who actually has his fingers on the buttons, and he's giving me the wrap it up thing. But he did that like an hour and a half ago, and I just ignored him.
I gave you the wrap it up as soon as you couldn't connect me to Skype.
Well, it's my fault. I can't connect you to Skype.
Correct.
Such a statist. Unbelievable.
Factual statement.
Guys, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for having me, dudes.